Welcome to That 80s Show. Hit me with your best shot. They said in the 80s.
That was one of the things they said.
Oh, they said so many things in the 80s. So many things. Dory, how
violent lyrics now that you mention it.
You know what? People blame gangster rap. I believe middle of the road
Pop stars were violent.
You know, you think, wow, you're wearing a cat suit, a purple cat suit. You can't be violent. Violence, hit me with your best shot. I mean, that's just encouraging, right?
Exciting,
encouraging. Some may say rewarding. Wearing a purple cat suit, Dory. We find ourselves once again in the little space called That 80s Show, and it's a lovely space.
It's a very unsafe space.
No, my word. If you are a one-hit wonder, this is not the place for you. I miss playing music on the show.
I do miss it.
You know, the show's taken different formats over the years. We used to play it out as like an internet radio show. We had songs.
Talk about the songs.
Talk about it. We listen to the songs. We sometimes love the songs. Sometimes we
dance around to the songs.
And now we don't have that. And I feel like you get more. You get to know Dory and I. What a treat for you. Kind of like, I mean, who are we like? We're like George and Andrew of podcasting. You know, it's not remiss to say that.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, you know, I mean, people who know us have often said, "Wow, you guys are like the Wham of podcasting."
Yeah, most people absolutely hate us, but there's a few who love us.
You know, it's could do with less of the white shorts, but we get it right. So this is That 80s Show, Dory. You know, I keep getting suckered into it.
Yeah.
I'm looking for something. I'm looking for something in my life. I keep getting suckered into the Ghostbusters movies.
Well, I think I've mentioned I am going to watch the latest one because of James Acaster. I haven't got around to it yet.
Now, who's he?
He's a comedian. He's a British comedian. He's hilarious.
I don't think he's in this movie as much as you kind of
No, apparently he's in it very little. But the point is, we're going to watch it anyway.
I can't even tell you who I think he could be.
He's a nerdy-looking redhead.
I can't even think of that.
Oh, God. Okay, well, I'll have to check. I'll find out.
Like really.
What if we're talking about a different Ghostbusters movie? But I think it is the latest one.
So, you know, I mean, there's been a few. Was the all-female reboot of Ghostbusters. People shat on it. I thought it was fine. Then there was this kind of new iteration where they're bringing back the old Ghostbusters, but it's now like Dr. Spangler's family kind of revived Ghostbusters. So there was like I don't know what it was called, Afterlife. Could have been called Afterlife.
I don't know.
The new one's called Frozen Empire.
And I'm looking at it.
And I keep watching them. Because what they
James Acaster is Lars.
I don't even know who that is. Oh, is he like, show me his picture? I think I know who he is.
This is not the best picture of him, but...
Oh, yeah.
Not a huge character.
Yeah,
eh?
I mean, he's there. He's kind of like, okay, so what happens is, so they keep suckering me because they kind of show, okay, it's still set in, they show me all the old stuff.
Yes.
You got
including Bill Murray.
All the old Ghostbusters are back.
Yes.
Okay. And in the latest one, Frozen Empire,
it's cool that they're all still alive, actually.
Well, except for Ivan Reitman.
Right.
Okay, right?
Yeah.
And Ivan Reitman's character's family kind of like take his place. The granddaughter can sense him. He keeps leaving her messages.
Ghosts are real in this movie.
In the first one and now in the latest one, Frozen Empire, now the family moves from the farm that he retired to. They're now back in New York because Ernie Hudson's character, Ray, he's like this super rich guy.
Right.
Super rich. And he's kind of doing the Avengers of Ghosts. So he funds the Ghostbusters schemes now. He's like restored the firehouse.
Lost all its simple charm. It's become this mega thing.
Too much thinking.
Too much.
It's too much thinking.
Yeah.
And they kind of go, Slimer's in it.
Oh.
You see Slimer for the first time since the 80s movies.
Okay.
Cool. Bill Murray's there. Dan Aykroyd's there. You got Ray's there.
Is this your movie review?
No, I'm just talking about it.
Okay.
Annie Potts is back in. She's there. No appearance of Rick Moranis. He's retired. So he's not back. So there's like a lot of nods. Like some of the ghosts, I had explained one of the jokes to my wife because they refer back to one of the first Ghostbusters.
Does does Ray Parker Jr. do the
do talk
song?
About the song, so they're very meta. So the song does exist for them. Okay, so they do. Obviously they try to trick
Is
me.
there a soundtrack even?
They try to trick me with Paul Rudd.
Oh.
No, well, listen, they're not going to. I mean,
Nothing's going to be like it was. It's just...
they
accept.
open and they end with Ghostbusters, the song. Ray Parker Jr.
The original.
Yeah, they open and I think he's even got a cameo
Wow.
in it. They try to trick me with
I
Paul
thought there'd
Rudd.
be like a shitty new soundtrack.
No, listen, they're kind of like, look, we can't. I mean, this is the best movie song ever.
Right.
Like it really is. I mean, it's almost like it was literally written for it. So they don't fuck around with that.
And then Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd, they try to trick
They'd
you.
get me with Paul Rudd.
That's how they get you.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, I'm going, okay, look, I love Paul Rudd.
Who doesn't love Paul Rudd?
Ghostbusters. Slimer's in there. It's got the song. Ecto 1. That's the one thing that gets me. When I hear that Ecto 1 siren, it's just that iconic siren. It gets me all the time. And I think I keep getting suckered back into it because I want to feel how the first two Ghostbusters made me feel. Like, you don't know. Like, Bustin made me feel good. Like, you don't know how much I loved Ghostbusters. I even loved the Filmation, the other Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters cartoon that came up in the 80s.
Okay.
Because there was another Ghostbusters not related to this Ghostbusters.
I vaguely remember that.
There were two
How
Ghostbusters.
How old were you when you first watched Ghostbusters 1?
So what was it, 1984 came out, I think?
Yeah.
And then 1987, 88. So I wouldn't have watched it, but I would have watched the two together when I was 8 or 9.
Ah,
Right?
perfect age.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And you watch the two together, they make sense. It was perfect. There were like jokes that he kind of goes, I know that's rude, but I don't quite get it. It had Slime, it had the Marshmallow Man, all those things. And I keep going back wanting to feel that way again. And shit.
Well, think about it.
Nostalgia crack.
You are not the only one. This is how these movies keep getting made.
I know.
Millions of you feel the same way.
I know. And I'm sitting there watching it. We went to go watch it because my daughter was on a bit of a date.
Oh.
Like a bit of a group date, but her boyfriend was there.
Yeah.
And she said, well, you're not going to, okay, we'll also go to the movie. We'll go to another movie.
Mm-hmm.
What do they choose? They go watch Fall Guy, Ryan Gosling. Oh, I want to go watch a Ryan Gosling movie. It's so hot right now. And I knew I'm going to be let down by Ghostbusters. And he keep breaking my heart. Ghostbusters keeps breaking my heart, Dory. I didn't think...
See, I'm going in with extremely low expectations. I haven't watched any since Ghostbusters 2. None. I'm literally only watching this for James A. Caster.
Yeah.
I don't care about anything else about it.
Can I tell you who his character is?
Tell me. I don't even mind spoilers.
So Ernie Hudson's character, Ray, is now super rich and he funds Ghostbuster activities, but he's got the secret lab of like these genius kids.
And he's one of the scientists in the lab or something, isn't he?
He's one of the scientists.
I think I knew that.
So I'm kind of watching this thing and I'm going, okay, I see what you guys are doing here because now you're setting up the new franchise. And this is like a holding period. So you kind of got the old Ghostbusters, you got Paul Rudd and the young Ivan Reitman, Spangler's daughter and granddaughter. They're holding, but you're definitely setting up a new generation of Ghostbusters, of which this James A. Caster will be. Then there's two younger. So that's what, because by the next time the movie will come out, they're all into their 20s.
But do the young kids appreciate Ghostbusters at all?
They'll leave it behind. You see, they'll go, okay, old farts. You got your kids into the movie out of nostalgia. Go. We're done with you.
Doesn't seem like a good tactic.
No, I don't know.
Doesn't seem effective.
If they make another one,
like I just said, millions want the nostalgia, but then if they're relying on the nostalgia, then the new generation won't care.
No, but I'll care because they're going to get me with Bill Murray again. Even little things like where it's just little jokes that you go, oh, that's anyway. Wow. Ghostbusters keeps breaking my heart, and in fact, busting makes me feel shit. Actually. Okay, so that's therapy. The Bon Jovi documentary.
Yes.
Thank you and good night. Right? Very excited. Gets promoted. I can't wait. Hulu pops up. Fantastic. It was over a long weekend.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch that shit out of that, right? Put it on. Couple of things. John Bon Jovi. There's a reason that guy has lasted as long as he has. He's quite ruthless.
Okay.
You don't think it.
No, you think of him as a nice guy.
He's a nice guy.
Okay.
But he fucking gets what he wants.
Right.
Yeah, you definitely get that the whole way through. It's like, this is who Bon Jovi are.
Okay.
You don't play into that, you are done. But like, he's definitely ruthless.
Is he like a businessman kind of ruthless?
Bon Jovi is business. It is
Yeah.
a multinational, and he treats it like it is it is a business. It's a massive, it's an empire.
Mm-hmm.
And he treats it like that. And he goes, I am front and center. This thing is bigger than all of you. Not bigger, but nothing is bigger than me. And he's definitely, like, you don't hate on him, but you're like, wow, you're not the little, like, I went down a whole rabbit hole called John Bon Jovi in denim shorts. Okay?
Okay.
Thousands of pictures. Thousands. And you think, oh, well, you just wear denim shorts, floppy hair, lovely.
Yeah.
Right? We all know he's a nice guy. He's not
he comes across as a nice guy, but who knows?
Even his reputation, doesn't do drugs and
absolutely.
been married to the same woman for years, never gets involved in stuff. His daughter's
was in a
married.
couple of decent movies at one point.
It had a whole different, and good.
Yeah, really good.
He was
movies.
really good.
He was a leading man. That was a really good.
Yeah, so he was really good. Son's engaged to the Stranger Things girl.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which will be quite meta if Bon Jovi does pop up in Stranger Things. We were talking about it the other day, right? She could be carrying a Bon Jovi Junior, right? I mean,
Bon Jovi Junior.
That's meta, right? But he's Bon Jovi, John Bon Jovi, business. This is not fucking singing about love and bad names. This is.
Tell me why you say this, because I haven't watched the documentary.
He's very, it's the same thing as people who watched Last Dance, and you come across as Michael Jordan, you understand why he won. Because again, if you are not excellent, I'm not interested in you. If you do not enable me to be excellent, I'm not interested in you. Okay? And it kind of like changes your perception of Michael Jordan, but you understand why there's this longevity. You understand why he is still making music, still successful, still selling out tours. All these years later, into his 60s, I think he just turned 60 now, you understand why. There's a 40-year career, and he's like never stepped off the straight and narrow, ever. Okay? Even his whole fallout with Richie Sambora. Like, Richie Sambora is in it, but very wounded. Oh. But you kind of look at Richie Sambora going, obviously John Bon Jovi makes the final call. I mean, he's produced the thing. So, Richie, you're going to have your say. But this thing's going to be cut in such a way that everyone understands why you went.
It sounds like, did he go to like some sort of really hectic school? He sounds like he's very disciplined.
Like just a boy from New Jersey, public school, but from day one focused. Like,
I wonder if it's from maybe the family that they just installed that in him.
So they talk a lot about it. So he says everyone in his neighborhood was obviously the kids were all second generation immigrants, right? A lot of people came over from Italy, Greece, and came into New Jersey. And everyone's family was factory workers and just very blue collar. Yeah. So he definitely takes that discipline, but driven. Like that, you definitely get that. This is not. Like, I'm not wearing denim shorts for anybody. I'm no one's denim shorts bitch anyway.
Okay.
Okay. And you can see there's he's people in the band who are still with him. They're there because he wants them to be there. Not, he's like, right. Yeah. And I'll replace you. Right. That's one thing you definitely get. The other thing I realized is how much I actually loved 90s Bon Jovi.
Yeah. There's some good stuff in there.
Through the story, how they tell how he evolved as a songwriter and how they changed their music. Also, the thing was, I think it was the album Slippery When Wet, but Bed of Roses, the one from Young Guns.
Oh, yeah, Dead or Alive.
Dead or Alive. All those kind of ballady songs from the 90s. That was when I started going to school dances and boy-girl parties and things like that.
See, I don't love those.
I see, because that's a slow dance time for me. So I was like, oh, yes. Feel that, Ghostbusters broke my heart. Bon Jovi brought it back, right?
Ended it.
So I love 80s Bon Jovi, but he actually go, there's actually more of like an emotional connection.
Well, he was growing up as well.
Was, yeah. Little swinkies,
Probably married by then, got a little bit soppy.
Was definitely that.
Yeah.
Then, it's a great documentary. Great, fun, cool.
Okay.
There's parts, so they intercut it with telling the story, and then they cut to today times where they're preparing for this new tour.
Okay.
And I kind of went through that because it's actually a little bit painful to watch, because now you're going, you're actually old men trying to be what you were. And it's like,
it is what it is.
And they're battling, and he has this like weird machine lasers his like throat from the outside, and like that's a sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
And I don't like, that's boring. I want to see jean shorts. I want to see jean shorts. I want to see hair. His hair. We don't talk enough about what his hair was doing. So you get introduced early on to their first manager, a guy called Doc McGee.
Heard of him.
Right. So, I'd never heard of Doc McGee.
Okay.
So, Doc McGee, they show him
Yeah.
as their manager in the 80s. And he's very old looking. And then
Yeah.
they show him now, he's had all the work done.
Oh.
He looks younger now,
Oh.
40 years later than he did then, right?
Okay.
I cannot pinpoint how old this guy was. I assume he must be in his late 70s, early 80s. So I cannot pinpoint, right? Doc McGee, interesting. Cool. So talks about Doc McGee. I'm going to read a lot of things from an article here. There's a lot of writing about this, but this is in particular from southeastofheaven.com. So in it, very throwaway, they talk about the 1989 Moscow Music Peace Festival. Right?
Okay.
Of where Doc McGee took all the bands that he managed.
That's where I know his name from.
Okay.
Because of that podcast about the song, The Scorpions. Was The Scorpions one of the bands?
Dory, sit back.
Because that's where I know his name from.
Sit back.
I'm sitting back.
Doc McGee was the manager of bands, not only Bon Jovi, Skid Row, Gorky Park, Cinderella, Mötley Crüe. He, at one point, worked with Ozzy Osbourne, if not his manager, and the Scorpions, as well as the Jam. He managed all these bands. And he then takes all these bands to Moscow, and I'll explain why, for a Live Aid / Woodstock / whatever. And in it, it's 5 minutes long. And they show all the bands in this airplane that he hired, and they talk about it, and then they go. And I was like, stop die horlosie, because I do not want to watch the rest of Bon Jovi. I want to watch a documentary about the 1989 Moscow Music Peace Festival. So, in lieu of that, there may be better podcasts about it. But I'm going to spend a fair bit of time today going through the story of the Moscow Peace Festival.
So hang on. Is there a documentary about it, or are you just doing
No,
research?
there is not one.
Well, there is that. The podcast is called Winds of Change,
Oh,
but it's
of course.
specifically about the Scorpions and the song Winds of Change. I will give you no spoilers because you might even have the story here.
It is in this. It is in this. So I'm going to spoil, right? So, apologies. My reference source is going to be from Louder Sound. Loudersound.com, who wrote about it. So, it's 20 years after Woodstock. So they kind of go, well, Woodstock was doing this. We've had Live Aid. And what if we put on a self-absorbed, glossed over, height of the 80s multimedia event inspired by the deeply held desire of a convicted international drug smuggler to avoid going to jail and the fervent wishes of the famous bands whose careers he then guided not to be robbed of their Svengali, their bad daddy, their real money maker. So, daddy cool over here, right? Old Doc McGee.
Right.
He was of course, he had all these bands. He obviously knew how to glam rock, hair bands. He knew how to do it. What he also liked doing was smuggling drugs.
I mean, who wasn't smuggling drugs in the 80s?
Okay.
If you're traveling, you're smuggling drugs.
Right? So he was bringing drugs in to the US, and a bit of heroin, a bit of marijuana, quite a lot of it actually. Okay. Enough for him to get caught by the police. So he gets caught by the cops, and it's like, okay, cool, you're going to go to jail. He's like, no. Listen here, I've got an idea. I have all these bands at my disposal. As part of my community service, as part of a settlement, right? What's the point of me going to jail? What if I took these bands, why they landed on Russia, and I suppose you can deduce why they landed on Russia. What if I take all these bands to Russia to preach about freedom, preach about the American way through song, okay? Destroy communism through hairspray. And we're going to put on this concert as a trade-off, as a plea. And the cops buy into it. They're like, shit, you're smuggling 40,000 pounds of weed, but we'll put on a concert.
Suspicious.
So all the bands agree to it because they're like, well, firstly, they're can't not agree. He's their boss.
Yeah.
And secondly, they go, well, fuck, this guy runs everything. You know, he's probably, because
And they were curious to go to Russia.
they weren't curious to go to Russia. And I'll read a little bit about that for you. So, because you can imagine, he now signed all these bands up when they were teenagers. So he's definitely locked them into all sorts of shit. Okay? I haven't found anything to the contrary. No one's ever said anything. We've seen this movie before. So the best excerpts come from Tommy Lee. And I believe it's a fantastic book. He wrote The Dirt, of which the movie The Dirt on Netflix is based on.
Oh, I don't know.
You never seen The Dirt on Netflix?
No.
Well, you got to check that out. It's
Okay.
Mötley Crüe. It's Mötley Crüe's story.
Oh, sounds
Right?
interesting. Okay.
But it's like a eighth of what actually happened. So he talks about it. It wasn't his only bust. I'm Tommy Lee now reading. It wasn't his only bust because he was also being accused of associating with some well-connected madmen who had conspired to bring over £500,000 of cocaine and weeds into the United States in the early 80s. The result, after he had pleaded guilty at the trial in North Carolina, was a relatively modest fine, $15,000, plus a 5-year suspended prison sentence. And obviously the reason he was able to get off, he said, well, I can make a difference. Don't put me in jail. The money's irrelevant. I feel we can make a difference through my connections. Doc knew that anyone else would probably have gone to jail for at least 10 years for that shit. So he had to do something high profile to show the court he was doing some good in the world as a free man. And his brainstorm was obviously the 20th anniversary of Woodstock with the Moscow Music Festival. But as Tommy ruefully concluded, it was all bad from the moment we stepped on the plane. There was a so-called doctor on board who was plying the bands who weren't sober with whatever medicine they needed. It was clear that this was going to be a monumental festival of hypocrisy. Now, some of those bands, and Mötley Crüe themselves, probably have consumed 40,000 kilograms of cocaine. 40,000 pounds, right? So you're going to Russia, right? And Russia's always been a pariah. You're going to Russia to go say, don't do drugs. Mötley Crüe, Ozzy Osbourne, Richie Sambora, it's like Cinderella. Something's not computing here. Not that I was aware of any of that. I stood there sweaty and starving at Chermitov Airport in August 1989 waiting for the plane to land. I was still too flummoxed by Moscow itself to worry about what any of the bands might be thinking. I'd arrived 48 hours before to find a city gripped by such fearful heat that all the sensible/rich people had fled the city for the summer dachas. I never heard that word before. Dachas. D-A-C-H-A-S. I assume it must be Russian. Dachas. Yeah. Not that there was much to keep them from doing in the cooler months either. So they arrive in Moscow. It's hot as shit. He then talks about how...
I always assume Moscow's cold.
You
all
do,
the time.
right? But seeing the video footage, it looks hot there.
Did they know, or did they take big furry jackets?
So from what's made out in the Bon Jovi documentary, they had been taken to Russia a year before. None of these bands had ever performed there because they weren't allowed to.
Right.
But Bon Jovi had gone a year before, and they were taken in, you could see them, they're wearing big, fantastic fur coats.
Okay,
Oh.
so they were taken in winter.
In winter. So think, oh, well, we're going to go to this, like, it's going to
Yeah.
be cold. Who's going to perform outside? They're going to suck. No, of course, it makes sense. They're going to perform in summer. He then talks about the food. He says, it wasn't that the food was shit. There was no food.
Yeah.
Okay, we just couldn't eat anything. And he
Well,
says,
communism.
when
Everyone's starving.
Everyone's starving. He says, when you live on the road, you get used to eating crap. And he says, sometimes the stage we're in, we didn't care what we ate. And he says, but there was literally nothing to eat. He
Yeah, because
says,
there's no like McDonald's and everything along the way.
nothing.
Nowhere to stop and get like whatever you want at the convenience store. I
He
imagine there
noticed-
aren't that many.
He makes he insinuates here. He goes, when you did find food, meat was very unappealing. I also noticed a lack of dogs around. Now, whether they're making a job or not, I wouldn't imagine there's many dogs in a place that cold. They're just roaming around, right?
I think that's an unfair thing to say.
His book, his word, not mine.
Yeah.
He talks about exchange rates. He talks about people hustling money. As for the music, well, these days, no doubt, it's as easy in Moscow to download your favorite emo codswallop from the internet. Such a turn of phrase, Tommy Lee, as it is anywhere else. Back then, however, records and tapes were purchased almost exclusively on the black market. There was only one official record store in the whole of Moscow, and when I visited it, they were selling the sort of junk you might find at a car boot sale. Dusty Frank Ifield LPs and third-generation homemade cassettes of the Beatles. Everything else was either banned or simply not available on the Russian market. The reason for this, as John Bon Jovi later told me, was that they don't pay royalties. He said that actually let them release the Slippery When Wet album in the USSR, but we did it knowing we'd never see any money for it. If it hadn't been for the fact that the album had already made $100 million throughout the rest of the world, They'd never been so generous. Music, people aren't interested in. Here's where Tommy Lee gets involved. Interested. Sex workers lined the entrance to the hotel. They were staying at a $125 a night shithole in the heart of Moscow, 1 block from the Red Square and in the shadow of the Kremlin. Sex workers lined the entrance to the hotel, and dark-suited security guards with the thick necks and thicker accents of Bond villains checked the idea of everyone wishing to enter. Enormous black cockroaches clung lazily to the walls and ceiling of the lobby. In my room on the 16th floor, I was advised by one of the advanced crew to check for bed bugs before turning in for the night. In my bathroom, the water running from the taps was a rich brown color of yesterday's piss. In the soap dish, there was a decomposing apple core. The only towel provided was hanky thin and crisp as an old rag. 2 cigarette stubs floated lifelessly in the toilet pan. I was truly baffled. What the fuck had happened back when they had the Great Revolution? Hadn't anybody come out at the top end of it? And if they had, where did these guys go eat and sleep? Now, I think Tommy Lee is being very unfair because I can't imagine he's the most hygienic of people when he was on a binge, right?
I mean, probably not, but he definitely stayed in fancier places, obviously.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So it was what he was used to.
I think he was upset of going like, how will anyone notice if I fuck this place up?
Exactly.
You know, when we trash this, how will anyone know? And I think,
in fact, it'll look better.
yeah, that disappointed him. And I think that's what I'm kind of getting there. We now move on to Vince Neil and Nikki Sixx from Mötley Crüe. They were similarly downbeat when he runs into them backstage. Nikki Sixx, he goes, it might be an anti-drugs concert for some people, but it's not for us. It's anti-abuse we're talking about. And I think that's very important here. Because
the difference between use and abuse.
Says,
The distinction.
We're not here to preach. If you tell a young kid not to do drugs, he's going to do it anyway. I know I did. We just say if you cross the line between use and abuse, then that's really tragic. I've crossed that line many times, and I know from experience that it's bad, and I try to tell kids not to cross the line. The rest is up to them. So at least he's being realistic, okay? Nikki Sixx, Vince, and some other guys were actually taken out of rehab to perform at this concert.
Oh, my God.
So the Scorpions were the only band on the bill who had actually performed in Russia before. I mean, I said Bon Jovi had been there, but the Scorpions had performed. Drugs, the reason they did this, drugs was a huge problem. Huge problem. I think
in Russia?
In Russia.
Okay.
Yeah. Ozzy Osbourne goes along. Like I say, Doc McGee wasn't his manager, but he had worked with Sharon Osbourne. But he threatened to pull out the event the night before the first show because they moved his place on the billing. They moved him from 3rd to 4th, right? So Mötley Crüe, go ahead. I'm out. Okay. Last minute shenanigans, they get him to stay. They change his place on the bill. Ozzy Osbourne does the show. There was an incident just before where Ozzy Osbourne kind of needed to get out of the States because he had strangled Sharon Osbourne. So
wow, okay.
That's what I'm saying. This is the documentary I want to see.
Yeah.
Where you have people on the airplane, doctors medicating these guys so they can do this flight to Russia.
I mean, it sounds like a Spinal Tap type thing, but like real. Paulo, does it say anything about the song Winds of Change by the Scorpions in there? Because that's what the podcast series was about. It was a theory that the CIA had written Winds of Change to stop the Cold War.
So, you know what? It doesn't say anything about that, but I am not going to disprove any of that because obviously Scorpions got the hugest reception.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Along with Gorky Park, because Gorky
Of
Park,
course.
you know.
Yeah.
So that does not surprise me at all that would
Look,
happen.
I don't think it was proved by the end of the podcast, but it was a very interesting theory, and Doc McGee's name came up a lot in that series. And yeah, I remember them talking about this tour and how crazy it was. I need to re-listen actually to find out exactly what they said. How did people not see through what he was trying to do though? Like, how did people think that he was being genuine?
You know, you think we weren't...
Am I that cynical?
We weren't cynical. People weren't cynical in the 80s. They basically went, okay, well, you're trying to bring in drugs, bad. You're now going to take all these bands to Russia. Russia, wow, Russia, we don't go to Russia. What's going on there? You're taking all these people there for an anti-drug message. No one's actually going, you're taking a plane full of, you're taking guys out of rehab. Okay? I mean, a few of those guys have died a few times for overdoses and came back to life.
Well, who better to speak about the dangers of drugs, actually, when you think about it?
Do you know what I'm saying? I just don't think people were cynical. I just thought, okay, well, that's fine. And by the time news traveled so slowly, By the time you heard about it, they were like,
I mean, we never heard about it.
Nikki Sixx had died again. I'm going to finish it off with going full circle back to Bon Jovi.
Yes.
Topping it off, John Bon Jovi showed his prowess for courting popularity with the locals by wearing a Russian army coat and hat as the band toured through a show that included Blood on Blood, Wanted Dead or Alive, and Lay Your Hands on Me. Both nights finished in a memorable jam session. Members of all the bands, and there is a video of this, and that'll go on that 80 Show SA Facebook page, of all the bands joined by drummer Jason Bonham, and they took on Elvis's Hound Dog in the first night, and Richard John's Long Tall Sally on the second night, and Led Zeppelin's Rock and Roll on both nights. That is what you want to see. The absolute legends of hair rock. Massive
there
jam
has
session.
to be some footage of this somewhere.
Oh, there's loads of videos.
Okay.
There's loads of videos of, it looks like the entire show. There are clips on YouTube. So I'm going to put this article along with all those clips on YouTube over the next couple of weeks. But that's what I took out of the John Bon Jovi, or the Bon Jovi documentary. I want to see the Doc McGee Party 1989 Moscow Peace Festival.
Is Doc McGee still around? You said he's
still around.
You said he looks all young and plastic surgery.
Yeah,
now.
he's in the John Bon Jovi. I'm telling you, like, there's got to be, he's limiting what comes out.
He's got secrets, I'm sure, hey?
Yeah. He's got to embargo the shit out of everything. NDAs, you know what I'm saying? Do not resuscitate. Like, he's got all of them going on. Hey?
The key to the safe of all the secrets.
The McGee to the safe.
Oh.
I'm hesitant to say.
Not so hesitant, unfortunately.
So Dori, that is fantastic stuff. So we're not doing the traditional movie recommendations this week. Because I think you just got to sit down and go, wow, glam rock helped end the Cold War. And that's the headline Rolling Stone went with. I want to talk about a movie. I was going to recommend it as a movie, but it's like got into tricky territory because you try to remain on like 80s stuff.
Yeah.
So the original of this movie was done, the first movie was done in the 70s, okay? And then the sequel came out in the 80s, right?
Okay.
I actually, until I started looking at this, I thought they were all one movie. I didn't realize they were sequels. It also seemed like a movie that was always on, and maybe because there were two of them.
Right.
It was always on reruns. Starring Clint Eastwood, not as Dirty Harry, not as a cowboy, not as... violent. The movie's Any Which Way But Lose and Any Which Way You Can. Do you remember those, Dory?
The orangutan movie.
It was two movies. Some may say Any Which Way You Can. The second one was better. Where Clint Eastwood is a fighter. He's a street fighter, bare knuckle fighter. He beats everyone up. And both movies are around him fighting. Got to fight people for gangsters. People kidnap his girlfriend. I can't remember which one was which, but that's pretty much it. Both started, he's a fighter, some promoter gets him, fight these guys, beat these guys, people are betting money, then the second one they want to get him to fight, there's all that. But the star of the movie is obviously Clyde. He's an orangutan. I don't know if Clyde was technically an orangutan, because he looks...
What do you mean?
I think there's a different Clyde in the second movie.
Maybe in the original it was a little person in a suit.
No, it was definitely an ape.
It
was definitely an ape.
Okay.
It was definitely an ape. So, and that was the best part of it. Because now you can imagine, I'm watching this as a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm going, there is an ape pulling the middle finger at people.
I remember that from my childhood. Like, that is what I remember about it. And
ape.
it was very funny.
He did it all the time.
Yeah.
He drank beer.
Yes.
He got drunk.
Didn't he smoke cigarettes?
Smoked cigarettes.
Yes.
He punched over Hell's Angels.
Right.
There's one they stop at the traffic light, and there's a line of Hell's Angels, and he just punches the one, and they fall over like dominoes.
Right.
He drives a car.
Yes.
I mean, we don't have enough ape movies, Dory. We're all like CGI apes, or Planet of the Apes.
I know.
Get an orangutan. Just get one.
I mean, some might say it's cruel.
He looked healthy. He wasn't even balding.
Yeah.
Some orangutans, they bald as shit.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for them.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to shave it, but they'd comb over. You know what I mean?
The orangutan comb over.
If you send an orangutan to Turkey, could he get a hair transplant? Huh?
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to take a moment just to talk about Clyde, the orangutan star from Anywhere. Clyde could have been multiple orangutans.
Yes. I mean, and wait, how many years apart were these movies?
They were 2 or 3 years apart.
Okay, so was it the same orangutan?
I can imagine there were multiple orangutans.
Logically.
Because, I mean...
Although, I mean, usually when it's like these famous acting animals, they're not... They're special ones that are particularly good.
And they were also... I can't imagine that, like, they were as you know, you can imagine they put that orangutan through quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think that the dog from The Littlest Hobo was one dog. It was always the same name on the credits.
Was it? Maybe it was. You know, they don't want to, like. I mean, kids love that movie, love The Littlest Hobo, right?
Oh, I still love it.
Are we talking probably one of the greatest opening theme songs of any TV show ever?
Absolutely.
Right. And if the dog died, you can't well change the name because kids are going to, what's the dog's name? What's the dog's name? They go, oh, the dog's name's different. Maybe they just kept naming variations of the dog.
Oh, you're saying they lied to us? Probably.
Didn't we see this? There was like it was always the son, or it was a generation of the same dog. It was from
Very
the same
possibly.
bloodline. I think that's what happened.
Gonna have to go back to the research for that one.
Let's
go back to orangutan.
What's disappointing for me is there's not enough information on Clyde, and I feel that like that's another documentary I want to watch.
Right.
Okay, you know, Clyde and Seek. You know, should you make it? Whatever happened to the orangutan from Any Which Way You Can?
Any which way, we need to know.
Yeah, Clyde and Seek. So if you want that, let us know. That 80 show at, I don't know, we don't have
email.
Just send us a letter. Postbus.
P.O. Box
put on
80. No, I'm joking. Just message us on Facebook.
Where would you find a P.O. Box these days?
Postbus. I see P.O. Boxes.
You do still see them. What is
still there?
Drugs. Money laundering.
Who knows?
Money laundering. Can we end off this week's show talking about nice people from the 80s?
Isn't that everyone?
Lovely people. There's some bad people from the 80s. Right?
Burt Reynolds? Sorry. First name that came to mind.
Let's talk about nice person from the 80s, part 1.
Okay.
David Bowie.
Okay.
David Bowie had gone to a private showing of his 1987 movie Labyrinth. Okay? Good movie. Love that movie.
Great movie.
Afterward, he'd have a meet and greet with a group of children. He met them and had a ball, but one boy was shy and withdrawn. So Bowie asked the organizers of the event if he could talk to the boy by himself, seeing as he thought he was so shy. The kid wasn't actually shy, he was autistic. Right?
Okay.
Now in the 80s, there was very little understanding of this. Bowie told the kid he was also scared. He was actually scared of everything. He is, in fact, only able to face other people because of a magic mask he would always wear. It just so happened the mask was invisible. He gave it to the boy. He then acted rather distressed himself, and he had to make another magic mask, after which he became calm too. Bowie and the kid just hung around for 30 minutes, and it was a magical experience. The boy later said he actually felt more confident after meeting David Bowie and receiving his magic mask. Bowie reminded the boy of how everyone is shy and scared sometimes, and we all wear masks. Not every celebrity as famous as Bowie would have taken so much time and gone through so much effort to put an uncomfortable kid at ease at an event.
That is a great story.
It's a great
I love
story.
that story.
You hear stories like that often, but that's fantastic hearing of David Bowie because people like label him as a bit of a weirdo. But not here on that 80s show. Will it surprise you that 80s person being lovely part 2 is Rick Astley?
I thought you were going to say Paulie Shaw. No, it doesn't surprise me at all.
So this article from The Guardian, he talks about staying sane, why he isn't afraid of getting his hands dirty, and how the internet gave his most famous song a new lease of life. Did you know that his dad ran a little garden center? And it made him realize that if you can run your own business, you can run your own life. He inherited a work ethic, and they all worked at the garden center on the weekends, hence getting his hands dirty. His parents divorced when he was 5. Weird back then, because that would have been in the 60s. People didn't get divorced, but it was due. We've spoken about this before because he lost a sibling.
Ah, yes.
Yes. His mom had a breakdown and kind of like, not great. He says singing on stage with the Foo Fighters was surreal.
I love that.
He was so drunk.
It was so fun to watch.
But it wasn't just once. It was a few times.
Yeah.
It was a few times.
Yeah.
I think just the one when he was drunk was the one that went viral because it happened in Europe.
Well, there was
or
a
America.
small club and then there was a big stadium-looking place as well.
That's
There was a couple, yeah.
I'm pretty boring away from the spotlight, says Rick Astley. But that's why his life works. Says when he's in the spotlight, it's adrenaline and emotion. And when he's off stage, he just likes to go for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
Put on nice little loafers. Do you think he wears toe shoes?
I have no idea.
What do you think?
I honestly haven't given any thought to Rick Astley's footwear.
Yeah,
I know you have.
Rick Astley.
You're more into shoes.
Rick Astley wears toe shoes. I don't like toe shoes, but I imagine he wears them.
Not everyone can pull them off.
Yeah. No, that's the point, to pull them off easy.
To pull them off. Yeah, right. Okay. Never mind.
That's the point. His ambition for the future is to remain sane. I think he's doing a good job.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, he's doing a good job.
But he's always been like a clean living, down to earth, not ridiculous, famous person.
He says one of the pitfalls of pop career is that you do something exciting and think we have to do it again, but with more lights. Imagine that. Like you always just got to be bigger and better. Like we spoke about Bon Jovi, and you can see that pressure. So we're doing this. We got to do something different. We've got to reinvent. Again, going back to Bon Jovi, we underestimate how many times he reinvented himself in the band. We actually don't pay attention. He constantly reinvented, but you got to do it bigger, better. It can't all be Glastonbury, he says. And he guarantees that Never Gonna Give You Up will not be played at his funeral.
Oh, well, he doesn't have any control over that.
Oh, exactly. I certainly won't be playing it, and I don't think anyone else will be playing it either. I don't even know if I want to be remembered.
Huh. Well, too bad, dude. You are going to be.
You and your toe shoes. It says, I think the music almost lives in its own world. I'd prefer to be remembered for being a decent person. You know what? We'll remember you for being a lovely person. Because you're in our segment called 80s People Being Nice.
And hopefully we get to maybe interview him sometime. Hint, 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 hint.
We can talk toe shoes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask him about Rick rolling.
No.
Toe shoes.
Yeah.
When you go for walks, you're wearing toe shoes. I can see that.
What if he says, no, I don't? Then that's the end of the discussion.
A friend told me he interviewed Foo Fighters. Okay. He had lined up with Taylor Hawkins and Dave Grohl. And, listen, it's not very glamorous when you get a radio interview. You and I being on the back end of that you're just in a roll call. We've been very fortunate with our interviews that we do get time from people. Yeah. But otherwise, you got 5 minutes. They're sitting in a hotel room somewhere. Yeah. Like you're just number 5. You're just number 5.
Yeah.
And you got 3 questions you got to get out. So this guy in particular goes, I don't want to ask them the same shit about the album because they're just going to go. So he asks like a really random question, like to break the ice. Like I can't even remember what the question was, but it was really like so stupid. And they just didn't answer, and the call went dead.
Oh, no.
Shit, I got to go buy the Foo Fighters because he's trying to be a clever dick.
Oh,
it disappointed me because I was like...
But they should appreciate something different.
I'll blame him. I'll blame the guy interviewing because that does not sound like Foo Fighters at all. The question wasn't bad. I wish I could remember. The question wasn't bad. And just to find, I'm throwing it in here. Rumors, talking about 80s people being lovely, rumors of a Teen Wolf 3 have been floating around on the internet. Do you see Teen Wolf 3 trending at all?
No.
Jason Bateman and Michael J. Fox were together at a hockey game this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, Jason Bateman with a very, very bushy beard. Have you not seen this picture?
No.
Jason Bateman, describe him, what he's looking like.
He looks like Teen Wolf.
Hey?
He looks like a wolf. He's so much facial hair. His hair's long as well.
So long.
I need to listen to Smartest to find out more about this because he'll talk about it.
Why is his hair so long? Michael J. Fox also looks like he hasn't had a shave. I really thought Michael J. Fox couldn't grow facial hair.
I mean, it's a little bit of facial hair compared to Jason. It's like
more than I expect Michael J. Fox to have.
Oh, that's such a cute pic.
We'll put that photo up of that 80s show Facebook page. Great pic, which means evidently Michael J. Fox is going to be on Smartlist soon. When that happens, you got to let me know.
Okay.
Jason Bateman looking full Teen Wolf over there. And then on the same article, I actually saw this photo as well of Justine Bateman's 17th birthday. And you'll be able to recognize some people there.
I've seen this picture before.
Michael J. Fox is there.
There's Sarah Jessica Parker.
The girl from that Facts of Life.
Yes.
The lead character from Facts of Life. There's a couple of well-known names in there.
There's Mindy from Facts of Life as well.
That's Mindy. That's the one. Jason Bateman, of course, in there. And of course, that's who you're going to invite to your birthday party when you're an 80s TV star.
Exactly.
Teen Wolf 3. What's happening?
I would have to rewatch 1 and 2 first. In fact, I think I'll do that anyway.
Yeah. I sometimes wonder if Jason Bateman's hairy legs were costume or his. Seeing that now, I think it's confirmed.
He has a lot of hair. Like a lot.
But a lot.
And his hair is thick.
Thick. Luscious.
I think it's because he's very healthy living.
He is, because he had a lot of addictions.
He did have the problem.
And he's gone completely the
now
other
he
side.
likes salad and drinks lots of water.
He's vegan. He's so lean.
I don't know if he's vegan.
I'm sure I've heard he's vegan.
I feel like he spoke about eating a chicken salad on Smartless. But he's very healthy.
Very healthy. Clean.
Very healthy.
Eats clean.
Yeah.
He's got that lean. He's going to be around for a long time. I'll tell you that.
I hope.
First 200-year-old man.
Could be him.
Donate your hair to orangutan balding science. Hey?
And there we have come full circle.
Something in his genetic code. Dory, thanks for humoring me on the 1989 Peace Fest. I know I rambled on, but I just
it was interesting.
I feel like that segment shouldn't have made sense. You know what I mean? It feels like it needed to be chaotic all over the place. Hey?
It was cool. It was interesting. And like I say, there's still so many unanswered questions. We'll never know.
Doc McGee, when he dies, secrets out. Everything that 80 Show SA Facebook page. Dory, thank you for joining me.